Ever wonder how a continent brimming with wealth and vibrant cultures became a scene of unimaginable suffering? The story begins in the late 15th century. European powers, armed with new ships and a burning greed, set their sights on Africa. Portugal was first, with Prince Henry the Navigator leading the charge. They built fortresses like Snow Jorge da Mina in modern-day Ghana, not for protection, but for plunder. Soon, Spain, Britain, France, and the Netherlands joined this merciless race for resources. Historical records from Portugal's own trading house show they extracted a staggering 50 tons of gold from West Africa in just 25 years. This hunger for wealth wasn't just about gold and ivory. It escalated into a cruel market for human lives. The transatlantic slave trade turned Africa's beautiful coast into a marketplace of sorrow. Massive stone fortresses, like Cape Coast Castle in Ghana and Aldagori in Senegal, became prisons. Millions of people from diverse groups like the Fan, Ewe, and Bakongo were captured and crammed into dungeons, their humanity stripped away. Companies like Britain's Royal African Company, chartered by King Charles II, and the Dutch West India Company, made enormous fortunes. Liverpool's slave trade records show enslaved Africans were appraised like livestock, with prices ranging from £10 to £40, depending on their age and strength. Kingdoms like Dahomey were tragically forced into this brutal economy, supplying captives to survive, which destabilized entire regions. The journey across the Atlantic, known as the Middle Passage, was a nightmare beyond comprehension. Imagine being chained in the belly of a ship, with less than 5 feet of headroom, for 6 to 12 agonizing weeks. The British ship, the Brooks, was designed for 450 people, but was infamously packed with over 600 enslaved Africans. Olata Equiano, a survivor, wrote about the loathsomeness of the stench and the constant cries of the dying. Disease and starvation were rampant. In one horrific incident, known as the Zong Massacre, a British captain threw 130 to sick Africans overboard simply to claim insurance money. The Transatlantic Slave Trade Database estimates that 2 million people died during this horrific voyage, their bodies lost to the sea. For those who survived the Middle Passage, a new hell awaited them in the Americas. They were forced into brutal labor on vast plantations, fueling the economies of nations built on their suffering. In the United States, they toiled in the cotton and tobacco fields of Virginia and Georgia. In Brazil, they cultivated coffee in the Vale do Paraíba. Harsh slave codes, like France's Code Noir, legalized savage punishments, including whippings and brandings. Families were torn apart at auction blocks, a trauma recorded in countless documents from places like the New Orleans slave market. Yet, even in the face of this brutality, their spirit was unbreakable. They preserved their heritage, blending African spiritual practices like Yoruba Orisha worship with Christian elements, or secretly maintaining Islamic traditions, as seen in the Arabic writings of Omar ibn Said in North Carolina. The sheer scale of this tragedy is staggering. The Transatlantic Slave Trade Database documents 12.5 million Africans forcibly transported, with over 10 million surviving the voyage. But when you account for those who died during capture and the collapse of entire societies, historian Walter Rodney estimates the total loss of life could be as high as 100 million. This devastation fueled Europe's rise. Britain's Industrial Revolution, for example, was heavily financed by profits from slavery, estimated at £4 billion in today's money. Meanwhile, powerful African empires like the Oyo were destabilized and torn apart. But resistance was constant, from revolts in Jamaica to uprisings in Nigeria, all fueled by a deep-seated belief in freedom. The legacy of these 400 years of exploitation endures. The African diaspora, African Americans, Afro-Brazilians, Afro-Caribbeans continues to fight against systemic racism and inequality. Modern movements like Black Lives Matter echo the timeless calls for justice and human dignity. At the same time, there is a powerful movement of reconnection, like Ghana's Year of Return, which invites the diaspora back to the continent. This history is a grim testament to humanity's capacity for cruelty, but also to its incredible resilience. It's a story that must be told, a solemn reminder to uphold the principles of equality and compassion that were so grievously ignored. Thank you for watching. If you found this video meaningful, please like, share, and subscribe for more important stories from our shared past.